Hi there, I'm Matt Farrar.
And I'm Rebecca McLaughlin.
We're live here from Strategic Digital Services in Tallahassee. We're going to be taking some of your questions. We're going to talk a little bit about digital media, digital content, how to get started if you're a complete newbie to the process online, how to get going, what you should be using, what you should be doing, and then most importantly, how do you deal with failure, right? It's going to happen. So how do you deal with that? So if you've got a question for us, just hit us down below in the comments. We'll be watching as the broadcast goes on. Anything you could think of. It doesn't have to be directly tied to what we're talking about at the moment. Anything to do with digital media, whether it's for a political candidate, whether it's for a small business or a big corporation, just hit us below in the comments and we'll try to answer your question. So we're going to start here with how do I get started? Because that's the most important part, right? If you're a candidate for running for office, whether it's city council or whether it's a statewide elected office, if you're a small business, if you're the local coffee shop, or if you're a Fortune 500 company that just hasn't thought they need to have a presence online up until now, what's the most important thing you can do to get going? Rebecca, what do you think is the most important part of getting started online?
I mean, basically that. Get started.
Just do it,
Get pages created. Get clear images, I think, is a good one. A lot of people that come to us are like, what could I be doing better? One of the things is having like clear, high quality images for cover photos, for profile photos, because that first impression is going to make a lasting impression. So you want that to be good.
100%. But the most important thing there is just get freaking started. It is not difficult. This stuff is not meant to be rocket science.
Not
We
scary.
do it. No, it's not scary at all. We do it for a living here. But I can promise you that every one of the programs we use, every one of the platforms that we put out content on, are made to be super simple. Whether we're talking about Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat, just get going with something. And I got news for you. You're going to put out some crap to begin with. You're going to put out some uninteresting stuff. You're going to put out some stuff that just doesn't get engagement, that doesn't go anywhere. And that's okay. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. But if you keep coming up with reasons why you shouldn't start, why you don't need to do it, then it's going to be, you never will. It's just going to be another 6 months before you go. So, let's go specific for a second. If you're a political candidate, why do you even care about getting online? Why do you care about engaging on social networks? There's two bodies of people that you probably want to influence. One are the voters, right? The people that are going to elect you, and the other are influencers. And that can be media, that can be donors, that can be all sorts of people. Voters are on Facebook. Facebook is, even with the recent problems they've had eating everything online, you've got great targeting options for Facebook. That's where the people are for voters. Twitter and some of the other platforms are really good for influencing influencers. We as a firm don't spend a lot of money on advertising with Twitter. There's not a huge amount of bang for the buck, and one of the things we try to sell here is value per dollar spent, and that's just not a good recommendation a lot of times. But if you're trying to influence the media, if you're trying to influence donors, if you're trying to influence the people that are going to local Republican and Democratic executive committee meetings, a lot of that can happen on Twitter.
For sure. But I think, like you said, Facebook is the biggest one. And what a lot of people kind of don't realize is it's so much cheaper than mail. And it's not a place that you want to send people to go walk on doors in, sometimes in more rural areas. And so for Facebook, political candidates, it's a way for them to really create a presence within the entire district that they're in.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and I think one of the things that maybe sometimes we as paid digital media strategists get accused of is trying to poo-poo mail, trying to poo-poo TV or anything else, and that's not the case. Like, I promise you, I can't hit everybody that you need to touch in a political campaign or in a business marketing campaign by using digital. Like, there are people that you absolutely have to touch with more traditional marketing means. I think the thing that we really focus on in digital media is just the value. Per dollar spent on digital, you are going to get a much better value than just about any other form of communication with somebody. But the other thing to remember, whether you're on Facebook or anywhere else, we talk a lot, again, we said this almost every week, we talk a lot about Facebook just because that's where so many people spend a lot of their time. We spend a lot of money with Google, we spend a little bit of money with Twitter, but we really focus on Facebook because that's where people are. Facebook and any other network is pay to play at this point. And I'm not talking about hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. Like these networks are pay to play at a very small level. If your posts aren't getting the engagement they need, give them a few dollars to boost, right? $5 or $10 sometimes can go a long way. I think you've seen that with plenty of our people. Just spending a little bit of money unlocks a huge amount of added reach.
And it's for all businesses too. So Matt, for example, if you're a small flower shop, how is Facebook most effective for you? How could you use
Yeah, I mean, so obviously flower shops are already getting a huge amount of business around holidays, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, that kind of stuff. And I think they probably make a huge percentage of their business in those times. But one, I would use digital to get people to get their orders in advance, right? I would imagine flower shops get inundated with people the day before Mother's Day or the day before Valentine's Day. Or day of that are trying to get their last minute orders in. I would also use digital media at a very small ad budget to promote specials at other times of the year, right? You know, if there's months or weeks or even days of the week that are slow for you, use those time to run a special, right? Like drum up business for yourself. The targeting options are so easy to use in Facebook. Whether you're talking about getting a specific geographical area, whether you want to target around Valentine's Day, you know, men sending flowers to their spouses or their girlfriends, or on Mother's Day, people that you know, are in the likely age range to have a mother that would appreciate getting a nice vase of flowers for Mother's Day. You know, there's just a lot of options for how you can target people with a very few amount of dollars online. Kyle, do we have any questions we need to tackle so far in the comments?
We got none right now.
Okay, well, I blame all of you for not giving us a comment, question. Again, we're listening, we're watching, so if you've got a question for us, drop it in the comments below. So let's talk about the second part of that, which is how do I create content? Like, if I've gotten started, let's say I'm willing to go, I'm a candidate, or I'm a business, or I'm a big company. How do I start creating content? What kind of content should I create?
First thing is trying to figure out what message are you trying to portray.
Sure. Look, don't overthink it either, right? Like, we make some beautiful videos here, some beautiful graphics, and some great photos and everything else, but just start by documenting what you're doing. I think, you know, one of the things we've seen with the rise of Instagram and Facebook is people are surprisingly interested in the mundane details of others' lives. And sometimes that's for petty reasons that we don't want to talk about. But, you know, people are remarkably interested in the day-to-day interactions. If you're a business, you know, let's say if you're that flower shop, or if you're the local coffee shop, people might actually be really interested in how you prepare for the Valentine's Day rush by staging out thousands and thousands and thousands of flowers in the back of your store, where they have to be shipped from all over the world in order to make sure you got the supply you need. You know, where are they grown? How do they get to your store? How do you keep them fresh until they go out to the person that they're meant for? So don't necessarily think about reinventing the wheel when you're creating content. Focus more on documenting what you're already doing. But the second part of that is video.
Video is huge. It is 100% the direction that everything's going in.
Yeah.
Facebook, when we had a meeting with Facebook late last year, they told us that was what they'll start pushing more. Same with Google. I read an interesting statistic today too. That's another thing some people might not realize is how important captions are.
Mm-hmm.
And having, like, when you post those videos, create those captions, because 85% of the videos watched on Facebook are watched without sound, because that's the default setting. So that's huge. Like, if you're focusing on if audio is important to you, and most people aren't even listening to your audio,
100%.
You better be making like your visual content super intriguing.
Well, I mean, you're trying to tell your story in some way. So if somebody's not watching with sound on, which is a lot of people because they're sitting in the subway, or they're sitting, you know, they don't want to admit it, but they're sitting in a meeting, or they're supposed to be doing something else.
In class, whatever.
They're not going to be listening with sound. But video is hugely crucial. So much attention is going to video. It's what all of the platforms are prioritizing. It's the content that's going to get shown the most. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect video. the thing that you're probably watching on right now, like your phone or your iPad, is a great tool to just get the quality video you need. You don't need a fancy camera and $1,000 of equipment to shoot a video that people are going to find interesting online. And this is all encompassing, but also including video. Think about how it's going to look on a mobile platform, right? Most of the people are not going to see your content on a 27-inch screen sitting in front of them at a computer. Most of them are going to see it on a tiny, mobile screen. So, if you have something that's tiny on film, it's going to be super tiny when somebody watches it on their iPhone. But 90% of content that's viewed on Facebook is viewed on a mobile device. Like, that's incredible.
It's massive.
So think mobile first. Kyle, anything I need to tackle?
Yeah,
All
actually,
right, we got a question. Thank you.
I've been sitting over reading this one because you've been checking up on the stats, both of you. What would be an optimal media mix between digital and other media for a small business?
That's a great question. It depends on what your marketing budget is, right? Like, if you're a small business and you've got a big marketing budget, my recommendation is always going to be to experiment and see what works for you. I'm going to assume that most businesses don't just have a lot of extra cash lying around that they can go dump into a massive marketing budget. And at least as you're first starting out, again, I'm the digital guy, so of course it's what I'm going to recommend, but I would say put, 80% of your money into digital early on, because it's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. You can't do anything with $20, in TV or mail. You can do something with $20 on Facebook, and I think that's the big differentiator. Now, look, if you've got a $100,000 marketing budget you're going to go spend, I'd go figure out who your core customers are, who you want them to be, and probably go hit them with a direct mail piece, right? Like, coupons still work in 2018. I might think about doing something on local television, especially during the local news, right? I don't think people understand how much the local news has really made a resurgence in the past few years, but local TV stations are crushing it right now. They're doing it by using the exact same tool that we're using right now, Facebook Live, and a lot of other mediums. People are actually trending a lot less away from big networks like CNN or Fox News and focusing more on their local news station to get content. And those local news stations in a lot of markets are working really hard to generate value for local people. So I would not underestimate putting TV budget there if you've got it. But if you have a small marketing budget, just go buy some Facebook ads. They don't have to be perfect. Just start promoting to the people that you want to shop at your store or be your customer.
For a business owner too, there's a lot more affirmation with digital because you can actually see your consumers' responses right there. Like, people can engage with your content. You can send out coupons, but you don't know how many people actually see your coupon, how many just throw it straight in the mail without flipping through the book. And so there's a lot more peace of mind, I guess, when you can see, people are actually seeing this, and then once they engage, that's also really exciting. And it gets expensive to try to figure out how consumers feel. It's expensive to try to scout that information, and social allows the best of both worlds. You get your message out and get consumer reaction right away.
100% agree. And look, that it goes both ways, right? You're going to know if something's good or
something's
you're going to know if
wrong.
something's bad. But the nice thing is you're going to know if something's not working really quickly. You're going to get feedback that tells you, what you just put out on the internet is a dumpster fire, or your product doesn't work for somebody, or your food tasted bad, or whatever it is. But at least it gives you the ability to quickly and inexpensively correct whatever is going on there. And I think that actually gives us a really nice segue into the last thing I really want to talk about, which is failure. Unless, Kyle, you've got any more questions?
I got one more question. That was a great answer.
Okay.
Keeping on the theme. Maybe some current event question right here from Abby. Since Facebook's data trouble, does that change the way people use Facebook to communicate?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There has been no evidence that I've seen that Facebook had any real problem with user loss since the scandals from April, the Cambridge Analytica issue. Cambridge Analytica is now shut down as a result of that scandal. But the congressional hearings and everything associated with it gave no evidence to show that anyone is deleting Facebook or getting rid of Facebook. And the marketing things that changed as a result of it are fairly minor, right? Like for my business, we have a lot of new hoops to jump through, and we've talked about those in the past couple episodes in terms of buying political ads. They're not the end of the world. Like it's paperwork, it's bureaucracy, it's a pain in the ass that we have to deal with a little bit, but it doesn't actually change for the most part the way we buy political advertising on Facebook. For a business, I don't think there's really anything that has changed in terms of how you need to focus on your Facebook strategy or buy your ads.
Right. Most of the pressure was definitely on political. And
Sure.
for those that do buy Facebook ads, make sure you get verified by May 22nd. You have to submit your ID, and Facebook sends you some mail, and you put in a little code, and it's a delightful process. Like Matt said, just additional paperwork for us.
Yeah, and I mean, from a data perspective, Facebook changed the way they interact with some third-party data providers, and that affects, maybe some really high-level marketers or some people that are doing really deep dives with Facebook advertising. But for the average business, for the average agency, even like with us, most of the changes are pretty inconsequential. So thank you for that question. The last thing, again, I want to talk about is failure. Right? And that goes pretty hand in hand with getting started and us saying that the most important thing to do is just do it, right? Like, I've got news for you. You're going to fail. You're going to screw up. Like, it's going to happen. You're going to put something incorrect. You're going to spell something wrong. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be stupid. Pick your poison. There's something that is going to go wrong when you start to make an aggressive play into digital. Rebecca, am I right?
Oh, certainly. We've all.
So I'm going to put Rebecca on the spot here in the middle of this live broadcast. Rebecca, have you ever screwed up when putting something onto a social network?
I sure have. And fortunately, it was a small budget, but it was budget related, which is not the ideal mistake.
Like, newsflash, I've made a mistake there too. And if you're doing it, whether it's for somebody else, whether it's for your campaign, whether it's for your business, you're going to make a mistake. It happens. Fix it. Move on.
You can't dwell on it.
Yeah. You need to figure out how to correct it. Yeah.
Correct.
Take responsibility for it. But when you're making an aggressive play into a new medium, into a new market, whatever it is, there are going to be turds, quite frankly. You're going to make some ugly stuff, and that's okay. The good news is there are more tools than ever online to help you make your stuff a little bit prettier, to make graphics, to make videos. Again, you're holding probably what you're watching on, the most powerful device in your hand right now that you could be using to make incredible content. That iPhone or Android phone that you're probably looking at us on is a powerful little machine to make interesting content for people.
You literally have the world at your fingertips.
Yeah. If you went back 50 years and told people that 50 years later, they would have a device in their pocket that has access to literally the entire human civilization's knowledge, they probably would have looked at you like you were crazy.
You're insane.
So that being said, Rebecca, do you have any other thoughts about failure? How to deal with it, how to avoid it?
I think it's a great topic. At risk of sounding like a motivational speaker here, the first 3 months I worked here, I had no idea what I was doing. I had a 4-year degree in marketing, and I was like, oh yeah, going into digital media marketing, I know what I'm talking about. And the first day here, I was like, yeah, I have no idea what I'm talking about. And it took an adjustment, and a month into it, I was finally okay, I'm starting to hear a lot of the same terms over and over again, starting to get the hang of things. And then after 6 months, I was able to confidently place an ad without being petrified anytime I hit publish. So, failure just comes with it. You kind of need to find joy in the failure. It totally sucks at the time, but find the joy in it, because at the same time, it's also a learning experience.
It's how you get better.
Right. And once you make that mistake, hopefully you don't make it again. Hopefully.
No, I 100% agree. Look, it's how you're going to... It's how you're going to learn. I'm having a failure right now because I had a really important thought that I wanted to follow up on what you just said, and I just had a complete brain fart. So, there's a great example of it. But look, learn from it, move on. Kyle, do we have any other questions we need to tackle?
I got no more questions.
Awesome. So just a reminder, we'll be doing this every week. We're going to tackle some different topics every week. If you've got a question, even if you're watching this after a broadcast live, hit us down below in the comments and we will tackle it as best we can. We're just trying to create some value for the people that we interact with on a frequent basis. Again, whether you're a political candidate, whether you're a nonprofit, small business, whatever, we've been doing this for a while. We want to share some of our secrets with you because we think it creates value, and we want to do our best to give you real answers from our experience. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Have a great day.